Well, this week I was lucky enough to host an exclusive debate with the leaders of our major political parties. Welcome to the Leaked Debate. To your right, we have Malcolm Turnbull from the Coalition.
Hello.
To the left, we have Bill Shorten from Labor.
Good evening.
And to the very far left, we have Richard Di Natale from the Greens. Who are you?
I'm the micro parties. We get all your donkey votes. The anti-pedophilia party, the euthanasia party, the euthanasia party, whatever. The bullet train party, the hemp party, and Shannon Knoll was robbed in Australian Idol Season 1 party.
I think you made that one up.
No. The anti-pedophilia party exists. Look at our logo. You can't miss it. It's on the ballots everywhere this year.
So why is there a cross through anti-pedophile? Are you now pro-pedophile or...?
Flip-flopping on pedophilia. Like Labor on the carbon tax, flip-flopping.
All right, let's take a seat, micro parties.
Only seat you'll take this year?
Hey,
Bit of comedy.
Richard, have you been to one of these before? It's called a debate.
Is it like Q&A? Will people applaud every time I say the words renewable energy?
All right, let's start with the budget.
Good idea. Labor has a $67 billion black hole in its budget.
Well, you've got a $35 billion black hole in our black hole.
Well, you've got a $17 billion black hole in our black hole in your black hole. You've got a black hole inside a black hole. Inside a black hole. You came out of a black hole, you are a black hole. I'm trying to plug a black hole.
It's a lot of holes. First we're going to go deeper into our hole, very deep, but we will be out of our hole the same time as Labor.
What direction are you coming out of your hole? Forwards or backwards?
You got to go deep to get in out of the hole. I don't know, you've cut a lot of science funding, but you've got to go right into a hole, deeper, and then you'll come out same time as...
I think you've dug yourself into a hole there.
We'll never have this problem of all these black holes with us in power. We would bring the budget back into surplus.
man.
Like Labor can laugh.
Yeah, well...
Prime Minister, it'd be easy to get back to surplus if foreign companies started paying tax. How are you going to achieve that?
Well, we're going to ask them politely.
And what if they say no?
Well, at least we've tried our best.
We have to tax pedophiles. They are running around looking at everything small and loving it.
We can't tax the Catholic Church. Corey Bernardi would lose his share.
We don't accept any money from any of these foreign corporations.
Let's discuss asylum seekers. Prime Minister, the Coalition has promised to bring in 12,000 Syrian refugees. How did you arrive at that number?
Well, we took into account the practicalities of relocating people. We looked at the costs and the economic benefits involved. We looked at whether we had the infrastructure and the programs in place to help resettle these people in Australia. And then, of course, Labor promised to resettle 10,000, so we just thought we'd do a little bit more than that.
Fine, we'll go up to 12,001.
12,002.
50,000 refugees.
50,000? Are you high?
Oh, whoa. It's medicinal, all right?
How did you arrive at 50,000?
Don't worry, we'll never be voted in, so we'll never have to follow through. Let's make it 5 million.
But there are only 4 million Syrian refugees.
Oh, so now you don't want a surplus?
Well, a related issue is how we're going to stop the boats. Let's see what Barnaby Joyce had to say.
Might I remind you that when we closed down the live animal export industry, it was around about the same time that we started seeing a lot of people arriving in boats in Australia.
Prime Minister, is live animal export linked to boats arriving from Indonesia?
Well, of course it is. As soon as the Indonesians stopped getting Australian meat, they jumped in their boats and they headed to the source. Look, say what you like about Barnaby Joyce, but he's consistent. He even started his own export business, Barnaby's Live Exports, specialising in exporting cattle and Johnny Depp's dogs. Barnaby's Exports.
I know how to stop the boats. There's boats everywhere. If they just had one bullet train between Australia and Indonesia, there'd be no need for the boats. Jakarta to Port Hedland in 3 hours.
Let's move on to housing affordability. Prime Minister, this was your solution.
But are your kids locked out of the housing market?
Yes.
Well, you should shell out for them. You should support them, wealthy man like you.
That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. See, you've got the solution in your own hands.
Well, that's clearly just Lawrence Mooney pretending to be me.
Whoa, that's meta.
I know what it's like to grow up poor, okay? As a boy, I never knew where the next meal was coming from. I could never be sure whether it was going to be brought to me by the butler or the maid.
Typical Malcolm Turnbull. He's so out of touch with the common man. If you ever go down to the pub and chat with your regular young bloke, they are locked out of the housing market. They are. They're also can't afford beers. I had to buy so many beers, but they're cool.
This is why we need voluntary euthanasia. We can get rid of baby boomers and it will free up the housing market.
We'll buy everyone a house.
Let's discuss international politics. Mr. Shorten, if Donald Trump gets elected, how are you going to work with him after saying this?
Saying what I think Donald Trump's views are just barking mad on some issues.
It's scary as well.
And some people had a crack and said, you're not allowed to say that. I thought, well, John Howard did. I just happen to agree.
Look, I was just agreeing with John Howard.
So voters should listen to John Howard?
Exactly.
John Howard is telling people to vote for the coalition.
Oh, but John Howard's barking mad. Look, I wouldn't mind. Even if I am elected, I won't have to deal with Trump for very long. Tanya Plibersek will have taken over within 3 months, so...
Yes, but what about when you take over back from her 3 months after that?
Yeah, well, look, let's just hope Hillary gets in.
Let's get into marriage equality. Micro-parties, I'd like to hear your views.
Michael, we are very pro-marriage equality. And the first marriage should be between Melbourne and Sydney via a high-speed rail network. You could even connect Jakarta.
Prime Minister, your views?
I think we should wait on the results of the plebiscite.
And then what?
Well, what we're going to do is we'll ignore those results. You see, the Liberal Party is a broad church, and like many churches, we and our members are terrified of change.
Well, for the record, I'd just like to say we were the first major party to support gay marriage.
Well, I was the first Prime Minister to go to Mardi Gras.
Well, look, I called Corey Bernardi a homophobe, mate, so it's not bad.
We've been supporting marriage equality and the Mardi Gras for years, and whenever Corey Bernardi is sleeping, I sneak into his house and whisper gay thoughts into his ear. Now, whenever he sees Tony Abbott in Speedos, he feels very confused.
We need to wrap this up. What are your final messages to voters, Mr. Turnbull?
Well, Michael, I say don't vote for slogans. Vote for jobs and growth. Jobs and growth.
Mr. Shorten?
Yeah, look, essentially the same as the Liberals, but with us you get 2 Prime Ministers. We're the best value for money at the ballot.
Well, I reckon we send all the pedophiles to Jakarta via bullet train.
We're the third of 2 options. Renewable energy.